Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. And I'm excited to have as my guest today, Tracy Repchuk. Tracy is a near-death survivor and creator of the Legacy Life Code. She started a software company at the age of 19, is a 9 times #1 best-selling author, has appeared 27 times in Forbes, spoken in 39 countries, appeared on every TV network, and won awards from the Senate, the Assembly, the White House, and President Obama. And she shows you how to align your divine message to your purpose-driven goals so you can reach millions and deliver from your overflow to live a legacy life. Welcome, Tracy, to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
So Tracy and I go back a number of years, but we were not in contact for a number of years, but we crossed paths recently at an online speaker success summit. And Tracy reached out and graciously appeared as a guest on the show. But the last time we crossed paths in person, I believe, was probably, what was it, like 2008 maybe even? I mean, it could be back that far.
It probably is back that far in the early days of my speaking career.
Oh, man. Well, you're not a rookie anymore, certainly. So, when you begin your bio with a near-death survivor, obviously that brings the immediate question to mind. Okay, what is the near-death experience? People want to know. So if you're comfortable talking about that, share that story.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I would say everybody's experience is different. In my situation, I didn't see white lights. I merely received a message, right? And it was actually you're on a mission, you have a purpose that only you can do. And it was embedded into me, and in turn, I am meant to embed it into others so that they fulfill their mission and their purpose. Hence, where the Legacy Life Code came from.
So is that near-death experience an illness, an injury? I mean,
I got hit by a car.
okay.
Yes.
That doesn't sound like any fun at all. So,
Well, I mean, I seem to, yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, I've broken most bones actually in my body. I don't know if that started the trend of it, getting hit by a car. But I'm okay with things that occur and happen, and I just leverage them as part of the journey that I'm meant to experience.
all right. So going back to those 2008, 2007 days or whatever, you said that was early in your speaking career. So what prompted you, Tracy, to just say, hey, I need to get up on front of the stage and share what I've learned? Was it speaker who became a coach, or coach who became a speaker, or what's the backstory on the speaking?
So it's a very interesting thing. As you I started a software company at the age of 19, right? So then along came the internet around 92. It wasn't even called that, but I was a very early adopter. I'm heavily into technology. I'm a computer programmer by trade. And so, I'm going through these kind of iterations of technology that I'm absolutely loving. And of course, along came internet marketing. So I see this internet thing and then internet marketing, and I'm like, this is it. This is like the wave of the future type of thing. So I go down to an event. At the time, I was living in Toronto, Canada. I fly down to Las Vegas for an event, and it was called the World Internet Summit. And so I'm at this thing, and it was mind blowing. Biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. There was like whatever, I don't know, 3,000 people at this event. And a speaker are on the stage. And I am loving what I'm hearing. I'm super excited. This is going to be great. This is my new career. So I decided two things as I sat in that chair watching this. One was we got to move from Canada and come down to the US. Everything was happening in the US at the time for internet. Nothing was happening in Canada. It was like the dark ages. So that was decision one. Decision two, as I sat there, was you got to be kidding me. There was 16 men over 5 days and no women. And I was like, I wasn't even a speaker. It's so funny. I was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to be on that stage in under a year because I need women to be represented in internet marketing. And at that time, they were not. And so it's something, I fly back home, all full of gumption, sell our house, move to California, and I start from scratch, literally no furniture in an apartment with my three kids. My husband joined me later as he finished the sale of the house. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do in this new internet marketing arena? So I write a book, and the book came from the concept again back to that first event I attended. I'm sitting there, and people are running to the back of the stage like they did, and they're buying things like traffic programs, and it was driving me nuts. I was like, wait a minute, like computer brain, programmer brain kicks in. And it says, first you got to get your niche market, and then you got to do your landing page. And then I'm sequencing the entire thing out as this event is unfolding. And I'm watching all these people buy the back end of something that they're miles away from needing. So they were spending like 6 grand on packages, and it was driving me crazy. So I was like, I've got to write something here, a book. I've got to write a book that will help somebody see the logical flow of when you get into the internet marketing business. What do you do first? What do you do second, etc. So the book was called 31 Days to Millionaire Marketing Miracles. I self-publish and launch it to Amazon now. This is no Kindle. This is no social media. This is raw bones, 5,000 books in my garage, right? Those days. And so it goes to number one on Amazon. And all of a sudden, people are calling me saying, can you coach me through the book? Fast forward, I obviously say yes, and I make 6 figures in a few short months coaching people through the steps in the book. Well, as a result of that, the World Internet Summit saw this. They contact me and they tell me that I've won New Internet Marketing Success of the Year. First woman to ever win that award. They flew me all expenses paid from California to Singapore to appear on my very first stage in front of 3,400 people. And because of the response that I got at that event, they then invited me to join their speaker circuit for 5 years. I was on that circuit, traveling the world with 15 other men as the very first woman to appear on those stages. That started the entire speaking career.
Well, that's interesting. You talk about the World Internet Summit because in the early days of the World Internet Summit, my company managed the back sales table at the U.S. events or whatever, and we actually did one in Australia too. So, you know,
I've spoken in Australia with them probably 15 times.
yeah, but they, it was a Ted Ciuba originally. It was part of
Yes,
it. Then Brent McFall and Tom Wall and all that kind of took over the reins or whatever. But
that's correct.
fascinating times.
So that's probably where I saw you 100 times as well, just from that concept from back of the stage.
So in the introduction, we talked about you've spoken in 39 countries. So obviously, one of the biggest questions all speakers have is, how do I find these gigs? I mean, how do I get to become an international speaker and all that? So what are your best tips for success to get more speaking gigs?
Well, I mean, now it's a little bit of a different world from when I came in, right? So I got a lot of the speaking gigs I got were from the World Internet Summit and then Global Success Resources. I did a lot of Asia with them, and that's who was running T. Harv Eker at the time. And so that's where a lot of the gigs came. But then, of course, I came back, started my own speaking career, and I got those gigs two ways. The first was I would contact somebody in the country and say, "Do you want to host an event? I'm willing to fly out at my own expense and split the proceeds with you." And so I would do events in Switzerland and all different. I probably did 12 of them in the UK. And so it was just people decided to put on an event. They brought the people in. I showed up and I split the proceeds of my sales with them. And so they had a bit of a risk in that, one, if I didn't sell, they didn't get paid. And I had a bit of a risk in that I was funding myself to go there. And if they didn't pull in the people, there was a chance that I wouldn't recover my funds either. So it was this kind of relationship that I started to build with different people. That was one of the ways I did it. The other way that I got all the rest of my international speaking gigs was through LinkedIn. So I built up my profile at the time to position myself, which I still am. Obviously, I'm a world international speaker, and that's what I had up there. I posted some of the topics. I had my speaker reel linked. I had, of course, linked to my tracyrepchuk.com website. So everything was feeding that way. And because of those elements, I didn't kind of chase speaking gigs at all. They actually all started to come to me, which I was very blessed with. But let's fast forward to today now. It's a different marketplace. And the reason, of course, was, when the pandemic hit, I lost 2 years of my speaking calendar in a heartbeat. I was about to leave for a 5 country tour 4 days before everything shut down. I was heading to Costa Rica, then I was heading to the UK, then UK to Egypt, and all sorts of things that were just completely wiped. So 2 years of my calendar was wiped. And then we move forward to where we are today. And live events are not like they were. You've got some still monster hosts, right? It moved a little bit to the pay to play arena in that, hey, if you're willing to cough up 20 grand, you can come on a stage and you can sell, so to speak, right? So then obviously that takes incredible confidence in what you can do, whether from a lead gen or a sales perspective. um but if you just want speaking gigs, you simply can search on Google, and you can search it. I used to put them around a bucket list. That's how I got Egypt, for example, is that I wanted to go to Egypt. I searched for events, happening in Egypt, and I approached the host of events, and I said, "Hey," it was too close for the one they had coming, but I said, if you're looking for speakers on XYZ, I noticed you do this. I would love to submit a proposal to you on a talk that I could do for your audience." That's pretty well how I would approach it nowadays, is in that capacity. Where do you want to go? Maybe bucket list item or size of audience. Obviously, the audience needs to match your target market so that you are, of course, able to recover costs and things of that nature. And again, we're going back to the fact that I am a platform seller, which means I sell from the stage versus a keynote speaker. I've only been paid 4 times as a keynote speaker, and quite frankly, I'll take platform any day.
Well, as you know from your experience, you can make way more money as a platform seller than you ever will as a keynote speaker if you can master that art of selling from the stage. So,
Yes.
so I heard two main things in that talk there, Tracy. One is relationships are critical, and nurturing those relationships properly goes a long way to helping you get those speaking gigs. And the second thing I pulled from that is proactive. If you're sitting back on your butt waiting for things to happen, generally they're not going to. Now, I mean, you had a fortunate start that maybe most people may not be able to replicate, but moving forward and continuing to build your speaking career was because of your proactive approach to the whole thing, reaching out to people continually. Armin Morin calls it 5-minute marketing, but I'm sure you're investing sometime every day in some marketing aspect of your business. So,
Yes, absolutely. And of course, I've spoken on the stage with Armand. I can't count how many times.
so as a platform seller, what do you find these days, Tracy? I mean, we've always seen a cyclical up and down in terms of the sweet spot in terms of pricing at live events as a platform seller. So what's the sweet spot these days, price wise, for what you're selling from the stage?
It depends on the stage and if you're splitting, right? So if you're going on somebody else's stage and you're getting that 60 to 80-minute presentation point, then I'm finding for myself, it's anywhere from, 2,000 to 3,500 is what I'm doing on those types of stages. If you have your own stage, go big, go monster. So I hold 4 of my own events a year, and that's 100 grand. Okay. If you want into my legacy life program, it's $100,000, but you work with me for 2 years and the goal is $1 million in 2 years or less. So these are for obviously very seasoned business people that are ready to go big, so to speak. And then if you are doing smaller things now, summits, right? Or speaking gigs where you can master that 10 minutes, get that 10 minutes in there, because obviously those are lower cost if you are doing a pay to play scenario, then in those cases, use those for a lead gen. Right. And so in my case, I send everybody to a quiz that I have, and I just move people then through the process.
So, as a platform seller, if you were going to give advice to somebody who's considering that as their speaking model, give me your 3 best tips, Tracy, for being successful as a platform seller.
Irresistible offer is the first one, right? If your offer is not, you got to remember, you got somebody sitting, whether it be in an audience or the virtual world right now, and you have to make them just like we did in the old days, right? Where we were in a physical audience, you have to make them think, yeah, I want that. Then next move is, holy mackerel, I want to have that. And then I got to have that, to pulling out their credit card, to running to the back of the room. Or in the case of virtual, to clicking those buttons and buying it. So step 1 is that irresistible offer. The next thing that you have to have, and is very helpful in these situations, and if you're new, you won't have them, but testimonials, right? Obviously, my presentations now are interladen with testimonials of people that, have made this in 30 minutes, made this in an hour, made this in 7 days, made this in a 60-minute talk from the stage. So I have successes now that, of course, help to position myself as the authority in those in that content or in that area. So positioning yourself well is the next thing. But I got to say, an irresistible offer will trump everything, right? I saw in my days on the World Internet Summit stages, when they brought in new people that nobody knew about, if that offer was irresistible, they ran. Even if, honestly, even if the presentation absolutely sucked, when they got to that offer part, that is the key. So the third piece of this is, in your talk, never rush the offer. Always make sure that when you've done whatever, if you're going to cut anything at this point, cut content, to make your offer crisp and clear, because that can save the day.
All right, I've got some other questions I want to ask you, Tracy, but before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 Key Things Entrepreneurs Must Master to Build a Profitable Speaking Business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And we are back with the Spotlight on Speaking Show and my guest, Tracy Repchuk. So Tracy, in the platform selling world, what do you feel the proper mix percentage-wise of content versus pitch should be?
Well, I mean, it's actually remained very consistent the entire time. And so your intro is, a couple of minutes. Your content is king. That is the mass of the majority. It is at least, 80%.
Okay.
And then let's leave kind of that, 10 to 15% of time for the close. So you have to, when you're creating your presentation, be able to talk about that in 10 minutes with a close and adjust your times accordingly, kind of percent wise, 5%, 85%, and kind of that remaining percent for the close. So just always plan for that.
All right. So event promoters are an interesting breed, and obviously you're an event promoter yourself. So when you're going or considering an event to speak at, what multiplier do you use to the number of people that the event promoter says they're going to be able to put into the room?
You mean if they say 300, do I sit there and think 72?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly. There are very few people on the planet right now filling events the way it used to happen, right? For whatever the reason, I have gone to events. I remember flying out to Utah. It was supposed to be 1,000 women, right? The arena they had was enormous. It was so huge. Thousands of tables were set out, 78 people. They had done billboards, they had done magazine, they had done radio spots, they had done flyers locally. I don't know what happened, but that was, so that was the situation there. So this is the risk when you're platform selling in a way, right? Is that you go to what you go to, but then you just need to make the most of the situation. So I've gone to an event, let's say in Switzerland. I remember there was supposed to be, I can't remember the number, around 90 people were promised in Switzerland, and there was 11. I'll tell you what, though, I made 100K from 11 people. So it
Not
all
too
comes
shabby.
down to what you do, how you try framework that situation. And in that case, right, I made it almost like I just sat there, right, and then moved everybody right to that front row, did some of my presentation, but I actually almost masterminded in front of them. And showed them what was going to be part of that program, then told them the program price, and they bought. So it's all a question of what do you do with what you've got in front of you.
So it sounds like 25% roughly is your percentage that you apply to the event promoter's number, which is pretty consistent with what I've seen and all that. Now, my horror story version of that is we were contracted by a guy to manage the back sales at an event in San Francisco. I flew a whole crew of like 6 people out there. They had a Harvecker coming in to speak. They were supposed to have 300 people there. There were 13 people in the room.
Yep.
Like I can tell you, Steve Harv was not a happy camper.
No, he wouldn't be, because of course again, I was on that speaker circuit with him with Global Resources. He was the talent. He walks in and he expects to see people there. And I've seen this in other events too, where people like Lisa Nichols would walk into a room and there was not a number expected.
Yeah.
And at that moment, you'd be terrified, honestly, as the host.
Now, yeah, but the bottom line is if you're that speaker, you still have to deliver the best speech you can possibly deliver, whether there's one or 100 or 1,000 people in that room.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And that's a great thing to keep in mind. And that's translates to the webinar world as well, right? Hey, you send out and you got 500 people registered and whatever, 22 show up. Never underestimate that number. And I'm going to relate this to my very first teleseminar back in the day where webinars didn't even exist and we had the phone. We had Rick's, you remember Rick?
oh yeah, audio
Right?
generator and all that.
Yes, that type of thing, right? So I'm doing my very first teleseminar and everyone else is raving. The Russell Brunsons at that time were raving about the number of people they were getting on. Hundreds and hundreds of people were attending their teleseminars. So I get on my very first one and there's 13 people there and I'm already, first thought is, oh my God, I'm a failure. I've only got 13 people. But then I rapidly reframed that. And that's what you have to do at every event you attend or every event you hold is, okay, I've got 13 people in front of me. These are the 13 that chose to be informed today of the message that I have specifically for them. And when you know that you are the deliverer of a message, and this again goes back to that legacy life concept, right? Which is a very big part of this. You are the messenger of the message. You are kind of divinely aligned to deliver that. When it goes beyond your, I'll call it ego, or beyond what you think should be happening, the greatest return will occur when you are in that flow in that moment. So I reframe myself on that call. And my very first call, way back in whatever that was, 2005, I sold $21,000 to those 13 people because 7 of them bought a $3,000 coaching program from me. That's $21,000 in 60 minutes. I mean, who wouldn't trade that for anything, right? And that's where I quickly learned that it doesn't have to be the numbers game. It is simply who is there to receive your message. You deliver it as if there was thousands there, and it will be heard loud and clear by those that need to hear it.
All right, so now it's the Bare Your Soul portion of the program, Tracy. So tell me an embarrassing experience in your speaking career where you were a little red-faced at the time, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something that you would highly advise up-and-coming speakers not to do.
Oh my God, I probably have 100 of them, but I'm going to tell you one that changed the computer I used. So I'm at a World Internet Summit event, okay? And it was always funny to me. So back in those days, you will remember there was a speaker table, big and long at the side or somewhere in the room. It was the coveted zone. And the speakers would be sat there and their laptops open, etc. Right? Well, it went Mac, 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 Mac. I've been on a computer since 1985. I was still in the Windows world. So I get up on stage with my Windows computer and I'm presenting my stage and I'm presenting my talk there. All of a sudden I hear a gasp in the audience and they go, "Ah!" And I'm like, holy crap, what just happened? My computer rebooted. Little Mr. Windows decides that this is the moment to regenerate my operating system. Do you remember those days? I was like, holy crap, are you kidding me? And I just started. So I was only 3 minutes into my 90-minute talk without a presentation, right? And so that was a monstrously embarrassing moment for me. It was, again, I always felt like I was carrying the weight of every woman on my shoulders for this event, because if I did not perform, i.e. make sales, I was gone. This was not, this was a dog eat dog universe that I was in. And there was 1,000 people, men, waiting to take any spot that opened up from poor results. So that was the situation. So for me, after that, I actually moved to a MacBook, you know, the Apple MacBook world. And I never ever had anything remotely happen like that again. And not only did it protect me from that moment, but there was another similar situation. I traveling internationally. I arrive in London. My hard drive fries. And if this was the old DOS world, right, or Windows world, um, it would have taken weeks and weeks to get your applications back on there, to do this, etc., right? No, I walk into an Apple store, they replace the motherboard, they restore from my carry-on hard drive that I had with the Mac, and I was up and running in 2.5 hours, and then had to go to the event that evening. So it's saved me twice. So make sure the equipment that you're using is reliable.
All right, great advice. So I want to give you a couple minutes, Tracy, to tell people a little bit more about what all you do today and how they can get involved in your world if they so choose. And I think you had one or two things that they could get that would give you a greater insight or give them a greater insight into what all you do.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I mean, essentially what I do is I help to kind of price, package, position, and promote you. All right. To put it in a very layman's terms, which means we start to take all of the experience that you've had now and really position you as the thought leader and authority. We raise your prices, and then we create all of the kind of create that image that will go with this new launch that we're about to embark on, or what we call the legacy life journey. So that's in essence what I help people do. So whether you're a speaker, a coach, an author, all of these things I have successfully accomplished. And so we incorporate that master goal into the plan that we unfold with you, and from that perspective. And that's the high end. That's where I'm working right now. I have other coaching programs. So, you know, if that one doesn't happen to be in your budget, please do not hesitate to reach out anyway, because I can put you into what I call the programs that will move you into that living the legacy life movement. And so that's there. And then, you know, what do I have for you? I know Brett has arranged for one of my download gifts. So there's two things here. One is I encourage you to go to legacylifequiz.com and take the quiz. So the quiz is something that I designed around increasing your income, your influence, your impact, and or your legacy building. And it involves 8 key drivers in business that will help to determine where you should put your focus next. So you always have that, oh, here's what I do next, here's what I do next, here's my next step, etc. Right? Visibility, which is part of that, would incorporate things like getting on podcasts, getting out there speaking, and things of that nature. But we don't go running to do that until the 3 steps before it are completed, so that you have this integrated system that becomes part of building your legacy life roadmap. So do that. And the other thing that I know Brett had arranged is to be able to get access to my Power Pack prompt. So obviously continuing with that technology desire and insatiable element that I have, as soon as ChatGPT came out, I just went nuts over this thing. It was spectacular. I have 120 books written that are full of ChatGPT prompts for various elements. Well, I've bundled 6 of the top ones together, and those are how to get leads, how to put a call to action together, how to do marketing and sales. So 6 of these have been put together in a bundle, and I believe Brett has that link for you so that you can get that for free. It is a chargeable item, but you're going to get it for free through Brett's link.
All right, well, that's awesome, Tracy. Yeah, we will make sure all those links are in the show notes down below. So as we wind down to the end of this episode of the show, Tracy, what final words of wisdom might you have for the aspiring speaker?
The first thing I'll probably say is ensure that you get your messaging correct. What do you want to say? And this again goes back to the early setting of that legacy life. What is the movement you want to create? And then in that movement, what is the message that you want to say? Because then everything else falls out easily from that, which means your talk falls out. It becomes easy to have that signature talk. Then it becomes easy to identify who has your target market from that speaking perspective. Then it becomes easy to say, okay, they have my target market. I'm going to approach them for possibly speaking on those stages, or I'm going to seek out people that have my target audience, or you're going to create your own stage. To me, that's one of the best ways to do it, right? Don't ever think you won't be able to attract an audience just because you're starting out. Especially now that we're in this virtual platform, there is no major hotel costs like we had in the days. There is no, getting a certain number of rooms. It used to cost anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 to put on your own event. Now it costs the price of Zoom, right? So don't be afraid to also position yourself right now with the message that you have, because it goes back to, you're on a mission, you have a message that only you can do. So ensure that you get that out in however a way that you can.
So many people struggle, Tracy, with what's the next logical step. And so Tracy has designed tools that take the guesswork out of that and lead you step by step as to what the next logical step is in your progression. So Tracy, I want to thank you so much for joining me as my guest today on the Spotlight on Speaking show. I wish you continued success in all that you do. And for all my listeners out there, thank you for joining us. I have a new program called TEDx Talk Tune-Up, and you can find out more about that at brettridgway.com. But as always, thank you for being with us today. And my wish for you is that this year is your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.